Welcome, illuminated souls. Never underestimate the seismic shift a fully realized spirit can trigger in one still clinging to the fraying threads of a borrowed belief system. Let me share a fascinating truth validated by science. Our bodies register fear and awe almost identically. A racing heart, shallow breaths, a surge of adrenaline. The crucial distinction: fear depletes, awe transforms. Now envision this: someone encounters you, a beacon of authentic power, and for a fleeting instant witnesses your totality. Not your curated image, not your achievements, but the raw voltage of your spirit. It's akin to staring directly into the sun unshielded. They were utterly unprepared for such profound exposure. People anticipate meeting talent, intellect, perhaps even captivating charm. But genuine spiritual strength that exists on an entirely different plane. It's absent from photographs. It doesn't solicit validation online, and it certainly lacks a conspicuous warning label. They assumed you were merely another individual in the room. They remained blissfully unaware of the potent inner force you carry, one that evokes inexplicable unease in those whose intentions are less than pure. Without a word, without a gesture, they felt it. A quiet, unwavering resonance that sent their insecurities scattering like startled shadows when the dawn arrives. And here's the remarkable truth. While they frantically attempt to decipher the source of their sudden disequilibrium, you stand serenely, perhaps sipping your beverage, wondering at their discomfited expression. News flash. They have glimpsed something spectral. They simply failed to recognize that the apparition was their own fractured, unsustainable persona, exposed by the luminosity of your spirit. Firstly, your inherent truth unveiled the vulnerabilities they've meticulously concealed for years. That fleeting exposure to your spiritual magnitude triggered a profound fissure within their carefully constructed facade. It wasn't a gentle awakening. It was a brutal dismantling of illusions they had painstakingly cultivated. They've invested considerable energy in projecting an image of unassailable confidence, unwavering control, and superior intellect. They diligently reinforced the external appearance of invincibility, while discreetly addressing the inherent flaws within. However, the instant they encountered your presence, the latent truth of their being began to seep through the cracks they had desperately attempted to conceal. Exacerbating their distress was the unintentional nature of your exposure. You weren't actively probing. You weren't issuing challenges. You weren't laying subtle traps for them to unwittingly stumble into. Your spirit simply exists in its unadulterated form, and truth inherently dismantles any construct built upon deceit. That's what they experienced: the slow burning humiliation of being completely seen, stripped of all pretense, exposed as the vulnerable individual concealed beneath the mask. For someone whose entire sense of self hinges upon that constructed facade, it feels akin to existential obliteration. It's not that your strength overwhelmed them, it revealed them. And revelation proves far more destabilizing, for one can defend against an attack. Yet when one is seen, truly seen, resistance becomes futile. There's no tangible target to engage with, no individual to hold accountable, no viable means of reinstating the facade without openly acknowledging its artifice. Hence their disproportionate response. They weren't combating you. They were grappling with the reflection you inadvertently presented. For them, that glimpse was terrifying. For you, it's merely your authentic way of navigating the world without artifice, without diluting your essence to appease others. You have undertaken the necessary inner work. You have navigated the crucible of transformative pain, emerging not unscathed, but rebuilt into an unyielding force. Consequently, your presence possesses a profound gravity. Not negatively burdensome, but weighty with authentic substance. They're accustomed to associating with individuals whose foundations are hollow. You, on the other hand, are undeniably solid. They departed from that encounter feeling inexplicably depleted, unsettled, perhaps even harboring inexplicable resentment. Yet at a subconscious level, they understood the underlying cause. You didn't merely showcase who you are. You revealed the profound discrepancy between your authentic self and the persona they desperately attempt to project. And for some, that disparity is simply intolerable. Secondly, they recognized your access to a power source beyond their manipulation. Upon encountering your spiritual fortitude, one of their initial realizations was your connection to a power they can neither corrupt, confine, nor exploit for their personal gain. They've spent the majority of their lives functioning within environments where influence hinges upon identifying and manipulating vulnerabilities. They possess a thorough understanding of the mechanics of manipulation, employing flattery to induce subservience, leveraging guilt to secure compliance, subtly inflating egos to maintain control. It's a game they've honed to perfection, and it has proven remarkably effective on almost everyone they encounter. However, with you, that carefully orchestrated game faltered before it even commenced. They were unable to establish a foothold because the power that animates you isn't predicated on external validation, fear, or fleeting approval. You operate outside the framework of transactional exchanges they've come to rely upon. Your strength emanates from a source that remains impervious to coercion, unattainable through bribery, and resistant to external suppression. That realization triggered a subtle, almost tangible sense of frustration. They found themselves confronting an individual who remained unresponsive to their customary control mechanisms. It's not a matter of stubbornness or intransigence. It's that your internal compass is immune to external directives. The energy you embody isn't integrated into their system, rendering it unhackable. They can't exploit your vulnerabilities because you have already confronted them. They can't tempt you with superficial rewards because you aren't driven by the shallow desires they believe everyone covets. They can't intimidate you with threats because you possess unwavering clarity regarding the source of your protection. And that aspect, above all others, provokes their unease. You operate from a foundation that remains inaccessible to them, let alone susceptible to their influence. They're accustomed to individuals either resisting until their resolve crumbles or capitulating immediately under sufficient pressure. But your resistance defies their expectations. You don't engage with manipulation through force. You simply disengage altogether. It's akin to extending a rope only to discover it remains ungrasped. That's the moment they grasped their inability to ensnare you because you never occupied their arena to begin with. That realization stung because if they lack the capacity to influence you, they forfeit their ability to control the narrative surrounding you. And if they can't control the narrative, they can no longer safeguard the constructed persona they've meticulously cultivated within their sphere of influence. That constitutes the ultimate defeat. Thirdly, your energy compelled their inner demons to surface. Your mere presence achieved what countless words could not. It forced repressed aspects of their psyche to ascend to conscious awareness. They've devoted years to concealing resentment, envy, insecurity, and covert malice beneath layers of disarming charm, manufactured politeness, or feigned humility. In the company of most people, they can maintain control over these darker inclinations. However, when in your proximity that control faltered and the aspects of themselves they had desperately attempted to suppress began to manifest, it wasn't prompted by confrontation or direct accusation. It was simply a consequence of your spirit's inherent nature. Your energy is intrinsically pure, and purity inherently exposes impurity. It's as if the atmosphere surrounding you actively resists the perpetuation of falsehoods. Without any conscious effort, you dismantle disguises because your spirit refuses to align with anything inauthentic. Consequently, individuals experience a sense of inexplicable discomfort. They become defensive, agitated, or excessively critical of you, failing to recognize that the source of their unease lies in the reflection of themselves they're suddenly forced to confront. The truth is, most individuals can coexist peacefully with their inner demons, provided no external light shines brightly enough to disturb their slumber. But your light transcends a gentle glow. It's the kind that penetrates the darkest recesses. And the entities lurking within those shadows recoil from exposure. They resist. They lash out. They scramble to protect the established identity, because once those concealed motives are brought into the open, the carefully maintained facade inevitably collapses. Compounding their distress is your refusal to engage in the games they typically play. You aren't striving to win them over. You aren't seeking to prove your worth, and you aren't succumbing to the manipulative emotional bait they present. You are simply being your authentic self, unyielding, grounded, and rooted in your truth. And that only accelerates the process. The more genuine you remain, the more their masks slip and the more their internal conflicts manifest externally. That explains their potential reaction of hostility or sudden detachment. It's not necessarily driven by hatred, it's fueled by an inability to tolerate the transformative effect your presence has upon them. You didn't create their demons, but you did compel them into the light. And for someone who has dedicated their entire existence to keeping those demons concealed, such exposure feels like a protracted, agonizing burn. Fourthly, they witnessed that your trials didn't break you. They forged you. They scrutinized you, anticipating the sight of someone worn down by adversity. They assumed your scars would serve as emblems of defeat, that your eyes would reflect the dullness of someone who barely persevered. Instead, they encountered the antithesis of their expectations. You were sharper, more lucid, and possessing an unshakable resolve that defied their preconceived notions. That realization profoundly unsettled them. Individuals who have never truly grappled with profound pain often mistakenly believe it inevitably weakens the spirit. They presume that loss permanently drains one's vitality, that betrayal irrevocably shatters trust, and that hardship permanently distorts one's character. Their reasoning stems from the fact that even minor wounds inflict lasting damage upon them. However, you have weathered tempests of such magnitude that they have stripped you bare, reducing you to your fundamental essence. Instead of succumbing to destruction, those trials have reforged you into something entirely novel. Each ordeal became the heat of the forge. Each betrayal became the hammer shaping your resolve. Each loss became the chisel carving away the extraneous, and while the process undoubtedly inflicted pain, it simultaneously incinerated fear, dependence, and self-doubt. What remained was your purest iteration, resolute, focused, and resistant to external pressures. This explains the distinct quality of your presence. You're not merely a survivor. You're an individual who underwent profound transformation within the crucible of adversity. What intimidates them isn't simply your inherent strength. It's your demonstrated ability to navigate the very challenges they desperately attempt to avoid. They instinctively know that should life ever afflict them with the same intensity it has afflicted you, their capacity to recover remains uncertain. However, you not only recovered but emerged from the ordeal possessing wisdom, discernment, and an authentic authority that defies imitation. That proves particularly intimidating to individuals whose confidence relies heavily on the maintenance of favorable circumstances. Your scars aren't emblems of shame, they serve as testaments to resilience. Proof that you have confronted darkness and emerged unscathed. Proof that you have endured betrayal and refused to succumb to bitterness. Proof that you have experienced loss and persevered nonetheless. And such proof can't be acquired through monetary means borrowed from others or passively absorbed within the confines of comfort. It's earned through arduous immersion in the depths of adversity. Consequently, when they perceived you, they weren't merely observing a strong individual. They were witnessing irrefutable evidence that life's most devastating blows need not constitute the definitive end. For them, the truth is both awe-inspiring and terrifying because it diminishes the validity of their self-imposed limitations and excuses for remaining broken. And not everyone is prepared to confront that reality. Fifthly, your invulnerability to their customary tactics rendered them powerless. They swiftly discerned that the tactics they typically employ to manipulate and subdue others proved ineffective against you. Gossip, slander, intimidation, betrayal. These constitute the arsenal they've meticulously honed over the years, the tools they rely upon to maintain their dominance and suppress those they deem beneath them. They've witnessed these methods dismantle individuals, ruin reputations, and compel even the most resilient personalities into submission. But when they directed these tactics toward you, they encountered an impenetrable barrier. It wasn't that you remained oblivious to their machinations. You were fully aware. You detected the subtle insults, the whispered rumors, the deliberate attempts to sow discord and instill doubt within the minds of others regarding your character. You sensed the shift in energy when they endeavored to isolate you or undermine your self-assurance. However, your reaction defied their expectations. You didn't succumb to panic and hastily defend your reputation. You didn't crumble under the weight of their falsehoods. You denied them the satisfaction of witnessing your distress. That's the defining characteristic of someone possessing spiritual armor. There's an invisible shield surrounding you that deflects their attacks. It's not that the malicious intentions never reach your awareness, it's that they fail to penetrate your core being. You possess unwavering clarity regarding your authentic self and the source of your strength. That self-assurance renders you invulnerable in ways that infuriate those accustomed to exerting power over others through fear and manipulation. Their intimidation tactics prove ineffective because you harbor no fear of forfeiting their approval. Their betrayal fails to devastate you because your trust isn't rooted in them in the first place. Their gossip fails to define you because your identity isn't contingent upon public opinion. And each time they recognize their inability to inflict emotional damage, their sense of control diminishes. For individuals of their ilk, dominance constitutes everything. If they can't dictate the thoughts, feelings, and actions of others, they experience a sense of irrelevance. And you have effectively demonstrated that. You have rendered them insignificant to your inner peace. That's why your presence provokes such profound frustration. It's akin to wielding a weapon that has always proven effective only to discover its sudden uselessness. Exacerbating their distress is the realization that they can't upgrade their arsenal to overcome your defenses. There's no hidden weakness, no secret passage, no ingenious maneuver that will yield the desired outcome, because your protection doesn't originate from strategic planning. It stems from spiritual alignment, and nothing within their repertoire of manipulative tactics can breach that. Sixthly, they sensed the magnitude of your ancestral legacy. They may have lacked the capacity to articulate it, but they undeniably felt it. An unseen force enveloped you, something too substantial and ancient to be shaken. They weren't merely confronting you. Your presence resonated with echoes of generations past, the strength of ancestors who fought battles you'll never have to wage because they have already secured victory. That form of backing isn't ostentatious or assertive, yet its presence is undeniable. It manifests in your quiet authority as you enter a room, in the grounded nature of your spirit, even amidst chaos. Some navigate life solely on the strength of their own willpower. You navigate life imbued with the strength of those who preceded you. Individuals whose prayers continue to envelop you, who persevered through hardship and injustice so that their lineage could stand taller. Each step you take is upon ground cleared brick by the resilience of your ancestors. That explains the seemingly effortless manner in which certain doors open for you. That explains why even during moments of adversity you never fully succumb. You possess an unshakable foundation beneath you. When they encountered that force, it was akin to standing before an insurmountable wall. They may have attempted to challenge you, undermine your confidence, or sow seeds of doubt, but something within you remained unyielding. That resistance wasn't arrogance. It was the natural consequence of being so deeply rooted that superficial attacks couldn't penetrate. They weren't merely engaging with you in that moment. They were encountering the accumulated force of everything that has sustained your lineage, everything that has carried you to this point. That explains why some individuals struggle to comprehend their inability to overpower you. They're accustomed to exploiting vulnerabilities, but with you, no such weakness exists. Your shield was forged long before your arrival. Even if they dismiss spiritual concepts, they can sense it, the weight, the depth, the unspoken authority. And at a subconscious level, they recognize that such power can't be stolen, faked, or replicated. What they sensed wasn't merely your personal strength. It was history, sacrifice, and divine favor standing as an army at your back. And regardless of their desires, they are incapable of competing with that. Seventhly, they struggled to comprehend your capacity to navigate life without fear. They couldn't grasp the manner in which you moved, calm, deliberate, and devoid of the pervasive tension that afflicts most individuals. They're accustomed to individuals exercising caution to the point of compromising their values, constantly calculating how to safeguard their position, their relationships, and their resources. Fear of loss serves as the most effective means of control, and for them it's their most reliable weapon. But with you, that weapon proves useless. You conduct yourself in a manner that proclaims your unwavering trust in your source of sustenance, independent of any individual job or circumstance. That unnerves them because fear has always been their most dependable instrument. They can compel silence by threatening reputations. They can ensure obedience by dangling money or opportunities as incentives. They can prevent departures by wielding the threat of abandonment. But when they attempt these tactics on you, they encounter nothing to latch onto. They can't dangle what you don't desperately desire. They can't threaten to take away what you are willing to relinquish. It's not recklessness. It's unwavering confidence in the fact that your sustenance isn't contingent upon them. They can't sever your provision because they never supplied it in the first place. That's the aspect they find intolerable. They're accustomed to assuming the role of gatekeeper. But with you, there's no intermediary required to access divine grace. You inhabit a reality where your worth, your peace, and your destiny aren't contingent upon their approval or access. That degree of faith is alien to them because they have never known life without being tethered to something fragile and impermanent. They've consistently devoted their energy to protecting their position, clinging to control, and pursuing security in ephemeral possessions. You have come to understand that anything susceptible to loss wasn't truly yours to begin with. Consequently, you don't cling. You trust, and that renders you invulnerable in ways they can't emulate. When they observe you navigating life without fear, they are compelled to confront an uncomfortable truth. If fear constitutes their sole means of control, then they lack the capacity to influence you. That realization undermines their entire paradigm because without fear, their power doesn't merely weaken. It vanishes completely. And for someone whose identity hinges upon maintaining control, that realization proves utterly terrifying. Eighthly, your serenity spoke louder than their chaos. They directed everything within their arsenal toward you. Accusations, manufactured drama, distorted narratives, subtle insults, yet you remained unperturbed. You didn't become ensnared in their vortex. You didn't elevate your voice to compete with theirs, nor did you rush to defend your reputation in a desperate attempt to reclaim your image in their eyes. You remained anchored, and that was the single contingency they failed to anticipate. Individuals of their ilk thrive on eliciting reactions. Chaos serves as their preferred medium. If they can provoke you into flailing, stumbling, or losing your footing, they emerge victorious. But when they encountered your composure, they found themselves swinging wildly at an immovable object. That form of serenity isn't passive. It represents power in its purest form. It's the strength born from the unwavering conviction that you aren't at the mercy of someone else's narrative, while they sought to draw you into their emotional tempest. You remained rooted in something far greater than their cacophony. That stability spoke volumes, communicating a truth they desperately attempted to suppress. They never possessed control over your mind. Your silence wasn't submission, it was mastery. You understood that engaging with their chaos would only perpetuate its cycle. You recognized that each time you resisted mirroring their energy, you deprived their performance of its intended audience. Bereft of a sparring partner, their fury began to appear desperate. Lacking a target to defend against, their accusations began to sound hollow. They sought a battle, but you refused to step onto their chosen battlefield. And here lies the aspect that truly destabilized them. Your composure highlighted the magnitude of their chaos. Standing in proximity to your serenity accentuated the loudness, the disorderliness, and the instability of their behavior. It's one thing to shout amidst a crowd of shouters, but quite another to shout in the presence of someone who refuses to raise their voice. In that moment, they witnessed themselves with a clarity they found unsettling. What they experienced wasn't merely frustration, it was defeat. Not because you overpowered them through force, but because you demonstrated your lack of need to do so. When they recognized their inability to disrupt your center, they simultaneously acknowledged the evaporation of their influence over you. And for someone who equates power with the degree of control they exert over others, that loss reverberated deafeningly. Ninthly, they recognized their inability to thrive in the environment that sustains you. They grasped it almost immediately. Your strength isn't contingent upon your location or the individuals you associate with. Your strength accompanies you. It's not tethered to a particular place, position, or social circle. Whether surrounded by support or standing completely isolated, your inherent atmosphere remains consistent. That realization unnerved them. They understood that your stability isn't circumstantial. It's intrinsic. You don't derive power from your surroundings. You embody it, and it transforms the space you occupy. For them, survival has always hinged upon cultivating favorable conditions, being among circles where they can dominate, within environments where they can manipulate, in places that satiate their egos. They depend on external factors to remain afloat. If their audience, their influence, or their safety net were to be stripped away, they would begin to crumble. Consequently, when they caught a glimpse of your inner world, they recognized their inability to inhabit it. It's too pure for deception, too unwavering for manipulation, too resilient for fear to take root. It wasn't envy directed toward your confidence. It was the profound understanding that they can't breathe within the atmosphere you inhabit. Your spirit resonates at a higher frequency, one that demands truth, clarity, and integrity. For someone who operates in shadows, that environment feels suffocating. They would have to relinquish too much of themselves simply to function within it. And shedding those aspects would necessitate abandoning the very tools they have employed to survive. You don't merely adapt to challenges, you emerge stronger from them. You can navigate situations that would utterly break them, not because you remain unaffected, but because you are rooted in something unshakable. That's why fire doesn't consume you. That's why storms don't drown you. So in essence, what we've explored is the profound impact your authentic self can have on those still clinging to outdated beliefs and manufactured personas. It's about how your inner strength, your resilience, your very being can act as a mirror, revealing vulnerabilities and prompting a discomfort that's ultimately a call for transformation. It's a reminder that your journey, your scars, your very presence are powerful testaments to the unwavering spirit within. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you ever experienced anything similar? What resonated with you the most? Leave a comment below. Ask a question or share your own insights. Let's get a conversation going. And if you enjoyed this exploration and want to delve deeper into topics of spiritual growth, self-awareness, and authentic living, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future discussions. Until next time, keep shining your light, shining your light, shining your light, shining your light, shining your